Good evening, everyone. We're back and we're glad um, to be back. And we have with us tonight our friend and our brother, uh, as we did with Brother Perry on last night. Back with us once again, Brother Killingsworth. You remember him from the Kill testimonies. Um, and he had given us quite a bit of information. Um, as you all know, we had met up in the Navy. He came into the Bible studies there along with Brother Edwards, Joshua Edwards, and they eventually came into the House of Prayer, became deacons in San Diego, California. Even ran services during convocation, where at that time they also met Brother Perry, Elder Perry at the time, and up and coming rising star in the organization. And out of jealousies towards him, the council did what they did to get rid of him. Unfortunately, like they've done to so many others, that also were utilizing their talents and their gifts in order to help other people come into the knowledge of the scripture and building a relationship with our Heavenly Father and His darling Son, our Lord and Savior. That said, we have Kill on with us. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing awesome as always. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Doing awesome also. Another day above ground and alive and well and kicking strong. That said, you are aware we've been talking about not only the changes to the Constitution, but as I was reading through the most recent Constitution that was pushed through the General Assembly by the former bishop slash, well, by the former bishop and the General Assembly secretary at the time, looking at the 23 version. As you know, I was ignoring it because it's an illegal constitution, as we've been pointing out to everyone. What do you think about the recent findings? I was going through there while making some notes and preparing for some things coming up, and I discovered that they had actually inserted in the Constitution protections against the bishop in the event that someone charged them, so that they could take control of the trial against the bishop. What did you think about that when you also learned of this?
Absolute and utter nonsense.
It's bold, isn't it?
This is definitely so. There's a maximum of law that simply states that he who fails to enforce his rights has none.
Say that again.
There's a maximum of law that says he who fails to enforce his rights has none.
He who fails to enforce his rights has no rights. What he's saying by quoting that is that the members of the organization, as we know, the United House of Prayer for All People, by failing to enforce your rights, that means you have no rights. It doesn't mean that legally, it's just that since you have not brought forward any complaints because of your suspicions, allegations, or knowledge of somebody violating the laws against you, since you haven't come forward, then according to the law, you don't have any rights. In other words, there's nothing that we need to do because you're not coming forward to utilize your rights to stop individuals from breaking the laws that they're breaking and using against you. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. And it just plays into what Scripture says whenever it says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." Like,
Hose.
people aren't studying the law, or they're not holding the leaders accountable to the law. Therefore, their power has just been stripped and stripped and stripped and stripped by things that, like, it's such a massive conflict of interest, and it takes a little bit of digging to get there, but once you're there, like, it's so blatantly obvious.
What he's talking about are the violations to the law is blatantly obvious because at this point they've gotten so bold that it's like whatever. I mean, we've gotten away with all this stuff so far over the last several decades. The people not even paying attention. We can pull a rabbit out of a hat, and they're going to say, "What hat?" That's just how bad it is. They didn't even see a hat. They sitting back saying, "Oh, look, a pretty rabbit." It's that bad. Would you agree with that assessment, or?
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely.
And by having laws that actually show that they're using the Constitution to protect themselves from violating the Constitution. Oh, gosh.
But the good news is, for all the members listening, the good news is that if you've been listening to these videos and you've been going over the specific parts, especially where we talk about the law, you teach about the law, you go over the law for yourself, it's all reversible through the law, through the General Assembly. It's just going to take members to stand up and do what needs to be done.
The key words, the two key words he just said, stand up. You can't, we can't keep sitting back and allowing this stuff to happen and pretty much say through our actions and our body language, give me some more. Give me some more abuse. Give me some more nonsense. Serve up some more of that that crap that you've been serving for the last several decades. Because
keep positioning yourself so that you're not touchable, and we're just going to let the corrupt system become more corrupt, and we can have our way and do whatever we want to do. It basically turns into rules for thee, but not for me.
Which really translates into do as I say and not as I do.
Yeah.
What was your first impression when either you saw the video or you saw the law that said that if the bishop is charged with a violation, that he actually, and we're talking about, again, this Constitution of 2023, right? We're talking about Article 7, right? Here's Article, is it Article 7? Yes. Here's Article 8. So above it, Article 7, Section 8G. Okay? And you can pause the video and read this section if you want, and then unpause and go forward. But it's striking because it says here, Section 8G. In fact, before we do that, let me go back into the 2009 Constitution. And in Section 12, in talking about the senior minister, it says nothing whatsoever about the senior minister presiding over a trial against the bishop. Instead, again, let me show you. Article 7, okay, of the Constitution, 2009, okay? And when we turn the page, we see Section 12, and you can pause and then read it for yourself, and then unpause, okay? Now, it says, the bishop shall designate a minister of the faith to be known as senior minister, who shall act as chief executive officer and with all powers of the bishop. In event that the bishop is suspended, incapacitated, or in the event a vacancy otherwise occurs, and until the bishop is restored or a new bishop is elected. If the bishop has not designated the senior minister, the general council shall designate a temporary senior minister, who shall serve until the bishop resumes his responsibility or a new bishop is elected. Now, did you hear anything in that kill pertaining to a trial of the bishop?
No.
Okay. Now, in the new, and I get tickled when I talk about this, an improved version, the late...
Now, the key word there is improved, but improved for who? Because it ain't for the member.
Right. And I'm kind of correlating this fake constitution, the new and improved version, the late model, along with one of the so-called sermons of the new version, the new version of Jesus, the late model.
Yeah.
But under the Article 7, and again, just so you see, this is Article 7, and now we have all these sections and subsections, right, going all the way down. And we don't even see what we saw before going down to Section 12. Instead, it goes down to 8G. So it shows that they hacked up, combined, and did whatever they wanted to, juggled all the rules and the laws and statutes of the last Constitution to make it whatever they wanted, printed it up, and then pushed it into the General Assembly to be voted on, knowing that the members had no idea what's going on because they keep them in the dark by not orienting them to what the responsibilities and obligations are in the General Assembly. But such... sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, absolutely. That's
So
exactly what they do.
it's intentionally keeping the people ignorant of the process and what they're there to do. I think, was it 23? Yes. Me and my wife were delegates in 2023 when I was there to bring to the floor what was going on. The only order of business was for us to read the minutes, which they waived of the old minutes of the previous year. So they waived those so that nobody would hear what happened. And the next order of business was for council to sing a song to the bishop, thanking him for his 15 years of service.
Complete and utter waste of everyone's time.
You can't make this up. To have everyone come from around the country flying into Washington for the most important meeting of the year in this organization, spending airline tickets, train tickets, bus tickets, gas, hotel expense, food, lodging, of course, hotel, taking time off work, loss of wages, time from their family to come there so they can witness the general council of all people singing happy 15th year anniversary to the current bishop at that time of the House of Prayer, which the entertainment for that day would last all of about 3.5 minutes, maybe more. And if you weren't there and you were supposed to, you're going to be subjected to a fine because you didn't do what the Constitution says you're supposed to do. Just
that's another thing that we should touch on at some point in time. These fines, by what authority do these people have to fine these people thousands and thousands of dollars? There's no, you can't just make stuff up.
I correct you there, sir. You can in the UHOP.
Yeah, that's
Oh, well, Lord.
They've gotten away with it, but technically that's extremely wrong too. If the way corporate structures work, if you don't mind, can I take a little bit of time to go over this?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just being sarcastic when I say
Sure.
you can in the House of Prayer. Yeah, but go for it.
What people, the way the corporate structures work, and you might say, well, this isn't church, it's not a corporation. That's not correct. It is designated as a church, but the way that the paperwork has to be filed is it's filed as a for-profit corporation first, and then because it is a religious organization, it then files additional paperwork or a tax-free exempt status as a 501c3. But it first must filed as a for-profit corporation first. The way these things work is whatever is not written down, like you can't just make up.
Now, before you continue, can you explain the difference of filing for a for-profit corporation even though they're under the umbrella of a nonprofit organization?
Yeah, that's just the process, right? That's just the process of how the law of the land requires it to be done.
Right.
You have to file for a legal entity first, and then sometimes adjacent with that, or shortly thereafter, you file for your tax exempt or nonprofit status, and that has to be granted.
Now,
but all the rules that apply to the corporate structure of a for-profit also apply to you.
now, if you don't mind me interjecting for a moment, this is under the Department of Commerce, their laws and their statutes for anybody doing business here in the United States of America. In order to file for a nonprofit, what he's saying is, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to actually have official documentation showing that you are a for-profit entity to operate within the confinements of the United States of America under the Department of Commerce, because they're going to regulate how you do business with the people that are citizens in this country. You can't just do anything you want all willy-nilly and expect to get away with it. Somebody's going to regulate you. Therefore, the Department of Commerce is established with its rules and their laws in order to regulate anybody doing business for commercial use. And once you establish that entity, then you apply for or put in paperwork to show that your business is going to be established as nonprofit. Is that correct?
Yeah, sometimes it's all done at once. It's all part of a package, so it can be filed adjacently. But yeah, you have to, you still have to file to be a for-profit corporate entity first, or that they do that first. Sometimes the paperwork is just all filed together sometimes, but that's still how you have to do it. You fill out the forms for the for-profit, and then there's also additional paperwork for the nonprofit side of things. So, yeah.
Now, with that in mind, you want to go into explaining how this whole thing works regarding the use of the 501c3?
Yeah, so as far as, is there anything specific that you're looking for? A 501c3 is simply a charitable organization. Now, it has a purpose, it has a mission statement, which is why you have that. That's the purpose statement is not just something that the UHOP decided to do just for fun or to look impressive. No, that's actually a requirement. There's actually other requirements. Some vary by state, but there's even federal requirements that require you to spend so much money on your mission statement every year in order for you to maintain your status.
Now, what he just said is important because if you all recall, there was a time when Bishop Madison said that there was so much money that was built up, he had to spend some of it. And that is when we saw the organization being renovated. When he went around the organization and renovated each and every house of prayer or even built brand new ones, along with apartments and along with housing projects, not a project housing, but a housing project in the sense that it was a project instituted by the organization to build additional houses around the country in certain neighborhoods. So what he was saying is what we did not know as a result of being under the umbrella of a 501c3, you are mandated to spend some of this money on a yearly basis. We did not see money being spent There was no accountability being given to us. But what he said was important as a bishop for the organization to know that I've got to spend some of this money. What he was saying without saying is exactly what we hear Kill sharing with us now. That under that umbrella, 501c3, you are mandated to spend money coming in, because if you're not spending money under the nonprofit entity known as a nonprofit, then where's this money going? You can't be a nonprofit if you're profiting money for your own personal use or personal gain. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a violation. You can lose your status, your tax exempt status. There's a whole bunch of things that can happen. But this is what we see. It's very wide and broad on what you can justify with the money. So those buses. Now, putting the name on the bus is an issue, or could potentially be an issue. But buying buses, that can be justified as doing this. Even buying the cars, that could be justified as this. Now, it may be.
Now,
there's certain
now when
laws.
when he says the buses, putting a name on the bus, he's not talking about the name of the organization. He's actually referring to the last name of the bishops. If you're a trustee, then the question that can potentially become a problem is, why is your name, your personal name, going on property that's owned by an organization that's not owned by you? If it's nonprofit, then that can become a problem, because it looks like this is a for-profit business. If your name is on the property that is owned by the organization, that's what he's indicating. The other vehicles that's going to be used by the bishop, well, it's no problem there, because there's no name on those vehicles. It's just a property owned by the organization that the bishop is going to use for his traveling as he represents the organization. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that is true. Now, the issue may be and the IRS has been kind of cracking down on this for profit businesses a bit in the past recent years. Is there's verbiage in the tax code that says, as far as business expenses and what you can claim, as long as it is normal and necessary. So you may run into something like, well, you don't need a Maybach as your travel. Why would you not? Why would you buy that versus a common car? So somebody dug into that. There may be some splaining that had to be, that might have to be done there. But yeah, normal and necessary is there to stop people from spending extravagantly on things, and then saying, well, I did this for my business. I could have bought the Honda, but I like the wood interior and the leather and the smell of the Maybach.
And a bigger problem that he just touched on is, normally whenever you have situations like this, if the CEO, the individual that has been entrusted with the decision making for the benefit of the organization, normally he's given a budget that is approved of by the board of directors and given to them so that they can have an expenditure fund to purchase whatever it is that they need. But
I'm glad that you touched on that, because I wanted to say something about the board of directors. See, normally it would be the board of directors that hires. When earlier, whenever we were talking about the appointment, and by the way, anytime you hear the word appointment and not election or appointee or anything that goes outside of an election, well, there's an issue like that. It doesn't mean that anything's bad is happening or anything underhanded is happening, but anytime you hear that verbiage where someone is being appointed or prescribed or whatever to a position, that section of whatever the document is needs to be heavily scrutinized.
Now, he's getting at the section 8G that we're going to be talking about, where the senior minister not only shall preside over the trial, but designate a special prosecutor from the general counsel. Designate is another word for appointing. That's what he's getting at.
Anytime you see designate, thank you, sir, because I was actually looking for the verbiage that was actually written there. So
Right.
anytime you see designate, appointment, appointee, prescribe, any of those things, that section needs to be highly scrutinized, because it opens the door, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other issue is normally whenever something like this would happen, the board of directors of a public company would then hire or choose someone. Well, the issue here is again, they have thrown out, if you ask them who the board of directors are, they're going to tell you the general counsel.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's the General Assembly.
Right. And that's the specified language in the Constitution, which is why it says who has the authority to do these things. It doesn't say that the general counsel has the authority to elect a bishop, but I'm sorry. They've taken so much power from the people that right in front of the people during the General Assembly.
Bro, it's like, I'm like, how in the world? Like, it's so bad that a lot of this needs to be completely ripped out by the General Assembly and completely rewritten.
Because the General Counsel, in front of everyone at the General Assembly, they walk right up and they pick somebody who's going to open the floor for nominations. They're going to send somebody to nominate a name coming from the General Counsel. Then, when they get done, they close the floor for nominations. That's what happened in this last election. And then, poor thing, Apostle Commodore sitting up there talking about, everybody, you know that this had to be the Lord's doing because everybody voted for the one set name. All of this was set up.
You know who else claims that?
Oh, who's that?
You know what other leaders claim that? Communist leaders. Kim Jong-un claimed, oh my God, we had a fair election. There's only one ballot, only one choice you can have. Everybody voted for him, so it must be good. No.
And we are cheering. Yay! And take my money. And we line up to throw our money. We have been so hoodwinked. The indoctrination is real. And I'm sitting there right along with everybody else, lining up whenever he come. The apostles are sitting up there in the front. Raise your hand and repeat prayerfully after me. Lord, Lord, oh Lord, we thank and praise ye. Oh Lord. But this
and
whole
the whole time, Jesus is sitting at the right hand of the Father saying, forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do.
Oh gosh. And the worst part is you're under a 501c3, Jack. And all of the laws that apply to anyone who's filed as a 501c3, they're just waiting for the first person to come knock on their door. We have some things we'd like to show y'all. And the men in the house of prayer, this is what I'm saying. Apostle Tanner, Apostle Commodore, they know better. Poor Apostle Shepherd, he really believes these men. And a lot of people have been indoctrinated. In Apostle Shepherd's defense, He really believes wholeheartedly that these are the servants of the Most High God. Um, and so, like the rest of us, my myself included, over 40 years.
Yeah, me too, for over 20.
But when our eyes became open, it's like Jesus talking to the disciples, letting us know, what is not, what's not true, what's not factual. We've been indoctrinated by being taught the traditions of men. That said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail. But under the 501c3 status, is it not true that I have maintained that anyone, excuse me, can go knock on the door of the headquarters and demand at any time, I would like to see the books for the last 2, 3 years showing where our money went, what it was spent on, and how it was allocated. And since you're under 501c3, they must immediately comply with that request. Is that true to your knowledge?
That is 100% federal law. It is absolutely mandatory that they do this. Anybody, you don't have to have given a dime to the organization to do this. Anybody can walk up to the headquarters, and I forget the name of the specific form that they are supposed to have on hand, ready to present at anyone's request.
Any contributing factor, anybody that contributes to an organization.
You don't even have to. You don't even have to be. They are supposed to give this money.
That's right.
Or they're supposed to give this information to anyone who asks.
Anybody who's even.
Whether you've given a dime, 1 red cent, a half a cent, wished them that wish that they had money or not. You're supposed, they're supposed to have this information ready for inspection.
I think the correct terminology, if I'm not mistaken, are anybody who's even considering contributing money towards that specific organization, if I'm not mistaken. But go ahead. I'm going to get ready to pull this up so that I can show this.
It has to be made ready to any member of the public upon request.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have been under so much falsehood that no one has ever taken the opportunity to challenge anyone. And the problem is, you should be challenging everybody, especially under a nonprofit. Because what they're saying is we're taking all this money in and we're not giving any accountability at how the money is being spent. Well, at least a for-profit business, you know that money is going in somebody's pocket. They don't need to show you accountability. The only person they need to show accountability to is the IRS, to show their expenses and how much.
Even for a for-profit organization, there's more transparency than there is in the UHOP. Because you have quarterly reports, you have quarterly earnings, you have quarterly meetings with the shareholders and the board of directors that are written down and open for the public to read.
Everybody understand what he just said? It's like being in a credit union, right? Anybody in a credit union, you would get notifications from your credit union to show you the activity that took place in that credit union, whether on a quarterly basis every 3 months, a semi-annual basis every 6 months, or an annual basis every 12 months. They will even send you notifications letting you know how much the dividends were that you received in your account. Even when they're getting ready to have an election for another CEO, because no business in their right mind will ever elect a CEO that they're going to put there for the period of their natural life. And they have complete autonomy. They can do anything, say anything, whatever they feel like, and nobody in that organization is going to question them, challenge them, or even bring them up on any charges based on violating the laws and the rules and the regulations of that organization. No company does that. But this is unique because we've been doing that for how long now? And apparently people have taken advantage because we're now looking at a constitution that has clauses written in it that pretty much says in your face, if I get caught doing wrong, I maintain that my right-hand man, he gets to help me get out of this situation. And it becomes legal that he helps me get out of this situation where I can maintain and keep my position, even though it's been proven or not proven, it has been alleged that I'm violating our laws. But not only... Go ahead.
This is so insane, by the way. But the way that this should work, okay, is the senior minister basically would take the place of the VP of the company or the COO, the Chief Operating Officer, which would stand in the CEO's stead.
The VP being the vice president instead of the president.
Or the COO.
Chief Operating Officer.
Corporate structure. Yeah, the Chief Operating Officer would sit in the CEO's stead whenever the CEO is unable to make the decision or is in between, hiring a new CEO, things like that. But the thing is that the COO and all the C-suite guys get there by one or two ways. Either they are a founder of the company and they went public, or the board of directors, aka the General Assembly, elected them to be in that place. Where here, there is no election. I'm just going to appoint who's going to be second in charge. This is again something that is messed up. And there should not be a special prosecutor appointed. There should be a special prosecutor elected by the General Assembly.
Did everybody understand what he just said? The person who's going to prosecute the one in charge who's being charged with a violation should not be allowed to have their buddy oversee the trial and then their buddy they can pick from their group of friends somebody who's going to prosecute them.
This is massive. This is a massive violation of morals and ethics that would not stand in the outside place. And another thing that the members should get used to doing, whenever they get fined for something, or this comes up, that the question that they should ask is by what authority? Because the outside world, like you have said several times in several videos, the outside world are going to say what is in writing. And if it's not in writing that they can charge you $5,000 for playing your horn outside the house of prayer, well, they can't charge you $5,000 for playing your horn outside the house of prayer or the baptism. This is super moronic.
It is insane that we have members allowing, and this is why he's saying at some point he wants to talk about the subject of all of these fines, for our members to allow the leadership of this organization to keep taxing and fining you for the most ridiculous reasons that are not even laws. But just because I said so, you're being required to pay a fine, and if you don't pay the fine, we're going to silence you and sit you down and keep you from doing the service that you offer to the organization of which you're a part of. It is absolutely ludicrous that this is what's going on. Do you want to touch on? Let me read this again. Um, the section 8G, the senior minister who shall preside over the trial of the bishop. Do you want to touch on the senior minister portion of this section?
Yeah, it's a massive conflict of interest.
And what do you mean by that?
One, it assumes that the senior minister is going to be just and unbiased in his decision making. But the law also assumes that the bishop is going to always be in the right and is always going to do things that are pure and holy according to the laws of the New Testament, the laws of the organization, all these things. Well, clearly, if he's being brought up on trial, that didn't happen. Secondly, you can't, first of all, the word preside means to lead, okay, or to rule over, okay, to have authority over, to direct. So how can you set yourself up in the judgment seat? That's literally the role that the senior minister is playing here. He is playing the role of judge. Now, yeah, it basically allows and gives him way too much authority. One, now you're ruling, you're sitting in the judge's seat where you get to judge. Now, in the real world, there's two different types of trials. There's a bench trial, and there's a trial by the jury of your peers, which everyone is entitled to. And you only go to a bench trial if you waive that right in criminal cases or things like that, right?
Right.
And it's a massive conflict of interest because he is, first of all, picked and appointed by the bishop. So that's a conflict of interest because what must one do to be picked and appointed by the bishop? It opens the door. Now, I'm not saying that this always happens, but it opens the door for corruption. I'm gonna choose you, or I'll say this: it is human nature. It is human nature for people to do whatever they are incentivized to do. We saw this very heavily, if you just look a little bit, in the recent global sickness thing that happened a few years ago, where the government was incentivizing hospitals and doctors so much money if they put people on ventilators, or they said that I'll call it the gunk, but we all know what we're talking about, or if they would simply say that this person died by the gunk, they would get so much money. And if they put them on the ventilator, the hospital would get even more money. So what were people doing to the detriment of thousands of people? They were doing just that, because people will almost always do what they're incentivized to do. The bishop has no incentive to appoint someone, senior minister, that does not have his back, that he does not work well with, that isn't going, that's not going to be in agreement on most things. He doesn't have an incentive to pick someone that's going to be adversarial to him or to keep him in check.
Now, what he's getting at, for those of you who don't understand, when the laws tells us in the Constitution, and again, this is an illegal Constitution. It's null and void because we know that the Constitution has been tampered with, and our charges are not only alleging that the Constitution has been tampered with, but the fact that it has the date and the signature, well, not signature, but the stamped names and the signed names of the bishop and the General Assembly Secretary in 23 and 22 on the day of the vote, what you heard in the last recording with Kill, It shows indisputable evidence that the Constitution is illegal. It shows that they changed it without the will, without the consent, without the approval of the organization for which it's designed to regulate. The General Assembly is the only institution that can change the Constitution or make amendments. Therefore, the fact that the book was printed before the meeting was held, we know that it's an illegal constitution because it was printed and made available for sale the same day of the vote. Now, I said that to say this. For this constitution to have in it the right or the authority for the bishop to pick a senior minister. Now, we already have a problem because the new constitution, it doesn't even give the bishop the authority to name a senior minister. Keep in mind, that's in section 12 of the last constitution. But they rushed this constitution by piecing it together so quickly that they forgot to even update that law to give the bishop the authority to name the senior minister. Let me read it for you. In section 7 and in Article 7, section 12, the bishop shall designate a minister of the faith to be known as senior minister. It doesn't have in the new constitution that the bishop is going to designate a senior minister. It simply says that the senior minister who shall preside over the trial of the bishop shall designate a special prosecutor. But the question is, you see it, right?
Oh, man.
The question is, where did the senior minister come from in this constitution? Did they just pop up? Did they walk in off the street? Did they nickname themselves?
That actually would mean that the moment that the bishop appoints a senior minister, he's in violation.
Right. Because there's no authority to do so. So what we're saying is we know that the bishop, the senior minister, who was the General Assembly secretary and the head judge / Apostle A.D. Cunningham, and the entire general council and the proposal committee, all of them have been working hand in hand. And that's why I keep on mentioning Apostle Jimmy Jones. This is why I keep on mentioning him, Sister Mickey Bailey, as being implicated in these violations, because every single one of them know better. And now, by coming up with this fake constitution, they're taking more and more power from the people, and they're distributing these powers amongst themselves. And that shows that they're working together, which is why the bishop is saying, no. The Constitution says I have the right to name this one, to do this, to do that, and the other. And now we have in the Constitution, the senior minister is going to preside over the trial. We're going to take control of even the trial if y'all try to sit the bishop down for violating the laws. That's pretty much what they're saying. So when
Everything should be done by election.
and this is what Kill's saying.
Whoever the judge is going to be needs to be elected. It doesn't just need to be appointed or assumed. And even if it is appointed in the law, well, the person that's there needs to be elected and not appointed by. I mean, it's a massive conflict of interest. It opens up the door to massive corruption, which we've seen that they've taken advantage of it and have done just that.
It's so crazy that anybody who understands law looking at this will laugh and cry at the same time. And the fact that we have a lawyer who's signing their name to stuff, it shows something here is not quite right. The fact that a judge's name is attached to this stuff, it shows something is not quite right. We have an entire legal team. Something's not quite right. That we have.
If we have an entire legal team, I don't want to speak ill of them, but they all either need to be replaced or the leadership listen or use any of their expertise in anything that they did.
Oh gosh. But because we have names attached to stuff, it really looks like they advised people in these positions to do the things that they did. We have a document from last year, 2024, if you all recall, where there's a lawyer who attached their name, got Esquire printed behind their name in a suggestion to the organization to push this proposal through the General Assembly, which also was illegal because the houses throughout the organization did not pass that proposal on to the General Assembly. Remember, we talked about how the procedures go. According to our procedures, these proposals are supposed to be voted on by every congregation. And if there's one congregation of people that did not read, have dialogue, and talk about the proposal, and then voted on that proposal, and then sent the result of that congregation's house vote to the proposal committee, it's the proposal committee's responsibility to seek out that congregation and find out what the problem is, because we can't move forward since we don't have the result of this house vote. That's why whenever you see an election throughout the country, that election is not determined unless they have a clear number of states that they know their votes put the total number of votes high enough to where they can declare a winner. They're still going to make public the numbers and the results of the votes in the state, even though they have enough votes to determine the winner. In other words, in the house of prayer, they're supposed to make sure that the results come from every single congregation so that they would know that the laws of the Constitution were actually carried out and followed. If they have...
Everything that you just said, sir, should be codified in the Constitution.
Right.
They have left the procedures undefined, vague, so that they can just say, well, this is how we do it. Well, that's another statement that people should be wary of. Is, oh, well, this is just how we've always done it. Okay, well, that doesn't make it right, efficient.
And what he's saying is, you're not going to be able to go downtown to any state-ran, local-ran, or federally ran office and tell them, well, Addie said we don't do it like that.
They will laugh you out. What's that mean to me? See, and there's a certain way that I would like to go, but I don't want the right hand to know what the left is doing just yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to, but it is so ridiculous. Like we don't even have to build a case. The case is built for us. If the people woke up and stood up and demanded these things to be done right, there is nothing or no one that could say anything. I mean, they can say, but it don't matter. They couldn't stop it because the negligence, the completely disregard of procedures, the not defining clear procedures and remedies, the salacious fines that aren't coming from the salacious fines that aren't coming from that are coming from people that aren't prescribed in law with penalties and all these things that haven't followed the proper procedure to be voted on. It's just willy-nilly. I'm going to fine you a certain amount of thousands of dollars for, whatever reason is. All that stuff. All that stuff is, the case is built for
Been saying it.
In favor of the members.
Been saying it. The power, even now, is in the hands of the people. And it goes back to something he said previously in this video. If you don't enforce the laws and the rights that you have, then you have no laws on your side. You have no rights. It's like what's called an at-will law. What the at-will law refers to is the companies in this country, they have the opportunity to set up their office and their operations in any state they want to. Okay. So some companies set up in certain states because under the state charter, they may allow that company to do certain things that other states say, no, we're not going to allow that. Now, some states have benefits to companies that other states don't. And other states have benefits that that state does not have. Depending on the type of service or product that you're going to offer or sell, you want to look at what states benefit your company. So before you set up shop, you're going to pick a state that's going to allow you to do the things that you need or want to do. You don't want to set up in a state that's going to hurt your company, depending on the service or the products that you're going to offer or sell. Now, that said, if your state says that you can do X, Y, Z, then that's where you're going to set up shop. Now, I said that to say this. The states that have a house of prayer located in them, if you look at the state law, well, according to the state law, you have certain rights under that state that will allow you to file a complaint against the house of prayer as an organization, because they say, no, you can't do that. And people in the house of prayer are like, wait, what? This is what we're saying. If you, the simplest way I can put this is this way. In the at-will states, there are certain states that say, if a company hires and hire people to work for them, if you have a union, then you cannot hire and then fire people whenever you feel like it. Because you have a union, you are no longer under the at-will laws. If you don't have a union, then a company in that state under at-will law, then that company can hire you or fire you at will. Any reason whatsoever. Any reason. It does not matter. It's an at-will state, meaning anything for whatever they want, they can fire you. You, as an employee, have to deal with it. If you don't like that, then it's up to you as an employee to organize a union so that you can change the policies of that company. Once you have a union established in that company, now the policy of that company must change in accordance with the state law. Since you have a union now, they can no longer hire or fire you at will. They must have a reason, just like in the Constitution of the House of Prayer. A bishop can be tried and removed for cause. You have to have a reason. That company in an at-will state, they must have a reason for firing you now, since you now have a union. But what Kill is saying, if you don't have a union, we can fire you whenever we feel like it. It doesn't matter our reason. This is an at-will state. So in the house of prayer, if you don't open up your mouth, stand up for yourself and say, wait a minute, y'all can't do this, we have rights. If you don't do that, then people can walk all over top of you and do whatever they feel like, because nobody's ever going to come to your rescue. You know why? Because while you're getting beat down and kicked in the gut, you sitting there covering up your mouth the whole time. And you're taking it. And we've been taking punches, headshots, lead pipes, baseball bats, getting pistol whipped, and kicked in the stomach all these years. And nobody...
It's okay, but then also saying, thank you, mother, may I have another?
and giving you our money while you're beating us up. And every time we get kicked in the stomach, we're saying it's a blessing. It's a blessing. Whew. Here's the point. Listen, I'm going to show them now, Kill. Under the IRS, Internal Revenue Service website, you will find, let me pull it up. Under the IRS website, I'm going to show you, and you can freeze frame, pause. Now I'm going to read it. It says, exempt organization, public disclosure, and availability requirements. This page is showing you what any company that has a tax exempt status, such as 501c3, the laws that they must comply with. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you this highlighted portion right here. You see the color in purple? Okay. Number 2, I believe it is. It says what organizations are tax exempt organizations for purposes of the law, requiring that certain tax documents be disclosed and copies of those documents be provided to persons requesting them. Which ones? Okay. On the next tab, you see the heading. I'm going to show you again. And then I'm going to read it. What organizations are tax exempt organizations for purposes of the law, requiring that certain tax documents be disclosed and copies of those documents be provided to persons requesting them? The answer is this. The law affects organizations that are exempt from federal income tax under Internal Revenue Code, Section 501A, and described in Section 501C or 501D. What that means is the House of Prayer is included because the House of Prayer is under 501C. Now, the number 3 comes under a subheading. But as long as you have 501C, this law must be enforced to the organization known as the United House of Prayer for All People. Now, it says examples of tax-exempt organization to which the law applies include charities, schools, labor organizations, business leagues, fraternities, social clubs, veterans organizations, and voluntary employees beneficiary associations. It goes on to say this law does not apply to certain split interest trusts. We don't have to worry about that. Now, let me show you this right here, the next tab. Okay? You can freeze frame, and then I'm going to read it out loud. Exempt organizations' public disclosure. Obtaining copies of documents from the IRS. Okay, this is for exempt organizations, of which the United House of Prayer is one of. The question is, how can I view returns and determination letters on irs.gov? Now, this was added November 27th, 2023. Okay? Now, freeze frame, pause, and I'm going to read that part. It says Forms 990, 990EZ, 990PF, or 990T for 501c3 organizations and 990N received in 2017 or later can be viewed individually and as bulk data downloads on tax-exempt organizations, tax-exempt organization search. This is known as a TEOS form. Okay. It goes on to say, how can I get a copy of an organization's annual information return from the IRS? And it tells you how to do that. Now, I did not go through and search this out, but the law is telling you that they have posted, this is public information. Any information under a tax exempt organization is made public. Now, my point is this. Anybody can go to headquarters, and you just heard Kill talk about this, and the laws are under the tax website, under the Internal Revenue Service website for non-exempt companies, as well as tax-exempt companies. And it will tell you that you can go into the headquarters and demand, or another word that's being used is request. Being polite, the term is request. If you want to make sure that they do what they're supposed to, the term is demand. They must issue on or upon request the books showing you how the money is being spent. Now, anybody can do this. Now, the purpose of this video is to give you information that will, wait for it, the word of the week is empower. Say it along with me, empower. What he's saying is you have powers that you did not know before. And we're making you aware of the rights as a member of the organization. And he also included as a non-member that you can go and request this information. Well, how is it proper for a non-member of the organization to request this information? Well, let's say that you have a desire to contribute to a tax-exempt charity, but you want to research and see how that charity is spending their money. I'm not contributing yet. I just want to know how they're spending their money so that I can determine for myself whether or not I want to contribute money to their cause, so that later I can write off that money as a tax. I can write off that money as a charity. I gave that money for a charitable cause. That's what it's called. A charitable cause. I gave $10,000. And the purpose of that, it will reduce my taxes that I need to pay by a certain amount, because the government will allow monies that I'm reporting to them for charities that I'm giving money to. They will allow a certain amount of that money as a tax credit. So if I owe $6,000 in taxes, they will take this $10,000 that I gave to a charity and they will credit some of that to that $6,000, now lowering my tax debt to the IRS. And this is why people itemize their taxes whenever they're doing their taxes, so that they can lower how much money they owe. So since people are looking to do that, they want to know how you're spending your money. Now, what he said is that the people have the powers over the chief executive officer, known as the bishop in the house of prayer. The people should not be told by the bishop, I'm going to pick this the senior minister, and I'm going to give him power to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to pick this person who's going to be the prosecutor, or I'm going to give the senior minister that authority. No, 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 no. All of the powers are in the hands of the people. But if the people do not enforce their right, then you don't have any rights. And this is how we got here. And we're dealing with a complete mess because we, as a people, myself included, did not stand up and assert our rights. And as long as you don't assert your rights, you don't have any rights. We keep getting kicked in the gut and given another $2,000 so that we can put a pin on our shirt and say, thank you for that gut kick. I want some more. And this is what's been going on year after year after year. And then we prepare the next year to do the exact same thing over and over again. Well, now we're at a point where enough is enough. We're sitting here with fractured bones and broken ribs and just tired of getting gut kicked. Go ahead.
It's bad, and like as far as non-members members being able to look these things up. Well, one, these things are supposed to be public information. Two, also, this is just something that you have to do for your tax exempt status, or for even having your tax exempt status. And as far as charities and things go, if you fall under that umbrella of things and you want to, you're looking for a charity to research in, well, a lot of philanthropists, those that I am aware of, they want to see, because it's a very low amount. I think it's like 10 to 15%. Don't quote me on this exactly. That actually have to be given.
1 second. Hold that thought. A philanthropist is an individual who's known to give a lot of money away in charitable causes. Okay, somebody who's just giving money in different charities. They're known as legally a philanthropist. Go ahead.
There's very little. The law requires them to give very little. The charities towards their actual mission. Okay. There's 501c2s, there's 501c3s, there's 501c5s. There's all these different designations, and they come with slightly different requirements for each of them. But let's just say you have a charitable event, or St. Jude's, or one of these other kind of charitable organizations that are listed this way. Well, they only really have to give a very small amount towards the thing. So a lot of philanthropists, they want to see, well, what's your overhead cost? How many cents on every dollar is actually going towards your mission? And there's some charities that just do what the law requires, which is very poor. And then there's some charities that actually believe in the thing that they're actually being charitable to, and they will give a much larger percentage past what the law requires to their cause. And those are the ones that philanthropists look at. So yeah, this data, it has to be made public.
Now, he just talked about a philanthropist. Okay, we have had many philanthropists who have given money to the House of Prayer because of solicitation. We've had individuals that were in the top 10 many, many years that y'all don't know about because they solicited funds from corporations or from business owners who's looking to lower their income tax by giving money to charitable causes. So some people have sought out companies so that they could give money to the House of Prayer, and they would report it in that person's name who solicited those funds, and that money is reported as non-out-of-pocket contributions. Now, what that means is, let's say I went out and solicited funds. These companies out here, because people know philanthropists want to give away money so that they can lower their taxes. So if I go out here and find a company that's willing to give me $50,000, okay, and I find another company willing to give me $20,000, I've reported now for the year so far $70,000 that is going to be called G-Class, is going to be used by this charitable organization, nonprofit organization, but I'm going to file that in the House of Prayer as non-out-of-pocket contributions because it did not come out of my pocket, it came out of somebody else's pocket. That is important because a philanthropist or a company that's giving me that check that they're giving to a charitable, a charity, a non-profit organization, they're going to write that money off on their taxes. So they're going to put on their Social Security number how much they gave me, a member of the House of Prayer, in order to give in the House of Prayer. So the IRS is going to hear from that person saying, I've contributed $50,000 to this charity, known as United House of Prayer for All People. The House of Prayer is going to list that money as an individual who gave it in the organization. That's going to be you. You're going to list it on your convocation report as money that you gave in the House of Prayer from that company. They're going to put your name on it, and the House of Prayer need to reflect for the IRS that you gave that money to the organization. Now, on page 30 of the Are You Aware, May 2022, it shows a sample of a Convocation Club report sheet right here. Now, pause the frame or the video and look at this right here. You see out of pocket? Now, I'm going to read it. It says name, out of pocket, and then you have right here, other, non-out of pocket. Now, when you have non-out of pocket, that's where the $50,000 is going to go. Under that is where the $20,000 is going to go. So you're going to get report in G class, but they're not going to give you at the end of the year a slip coming from the secretary for you to file taxes because that money didn't come out of your pocket. It was non-out of pocket, meaning it came from somebody else, or it came from money that you raised by selling tickets, selling food in the cafeteria. It's non-out of pocket, so you're not going to get a tax credit for that. You're only going to get a tax credit for that column right there, out of pocket. If you give $10,000 out of your pocket, you can claim that on your income tax to lower your tax debt. But the philanthropist, they're going to mention the $50,000 out of their pocket that went to the organization. Now, you might be top 10 worker because you solicited $70,000, but it didn't come out of your pocket. That's what that's there for. It's for the IRS purposes. Now, because they must comply with the IRS code, even though it's a non-profit organization under 501c3, Kill is telling everyone, what I'm sharing with everyone, is that the organization must comply with these rules. So here's where we don't understand as members. If you have a constitution, the bishop must be held to the letter of the Constitution. That's the law in that organization. The general counsel must be held to the letter of the law. And if the members don't enforce that law, then they can get away with anything they want to do. And that's why they keep changing the laws in the Constitution to take more and more powers from the members and give it more and more power to themselves so that they can keep getting away with all the stuff that they've been doing and taking advantage of you, me, and everybody else. Because nobody has stood up and say, wait a minute, I'm going to assert my rights. That's what we're doing now by questioning the validity of the Constitution, which is illegal, calling them out on these violations that they themselves have committed by not following their own law. And what Kill is saying is, if we the people do not stand up and assert our own rights given to us by the Constitution, as well as the law of the land, which means your local laws, the county that you're in, the city that you're in, the state that you're in, and then the country that you're in. All four of them, each body has laws that the house of prayer that you attend must comply with. Even if your Constitution says that the house of prayer can do something to you, guess what? You have county laws that say, no, you cannot. You might have township laws. Your township has a city council. You can go to them, excuse me, Mr. Council Member, I'm a part of a church organization, and these people done flipped their wig. They done find me for playing a horn downtown, which I have the right to do, and I'm earning money legally. They're telling me I must give that money to that organization. And since I don't give it, they're telling me I got to pay them $5,000 before I can perform and do what my service is required to do within the organization that I've been doing for 10 years. Those city, go ahead.
Now, let's say that there is no restrictions. Okay, let's say there is no restrictions on at the county, state, parish level. I'm originally from Louisiana. We have parishes. Let's say that there's no restrictions at all. That it's totally okay to do that, right? The issue still is, it is not in writing. It is not in writing. It has not been voted upon and agreed upon by the governed. That this is okay. That this is a rule of the organization, and that amount is okay. None of this is okay.
He just said it doesn't matter how long they've been doing it. When you do something and get away with it, those who want to keep getting away with it, that might say, well, we have a precedent that's been set. We've been doing this for the last 30 years. What he's saying is, if the members stand up and say, well, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, we did not agree to allow this to keep on happening. We didn't agree for it to happen the first time.
Well, this, even in the corporate world, right? You can set up your books and your rules for your corporation just about any way you want, as long as it doesn't directly contradict with certain state and federal laws, like you hinted to earlier.
Right.
But one thing that the outside courts will absolutely do is hold you. Like, the only question they're going to ask is, did you follow your rules? Now, if you're imposing rules that don't exist, that's an issue. Because they're going to ask you, by what authority? Remember that question I said that you should ask earlier? By what authority? That's the exact question that they are going to ask if this ever comes up, or if they're scrutinizing anything in the House of Prayer. They're going to ask, well, Mr. Councilman, or Mr. Judge, or Mr. Whoever, Apostle so-and-so, by what authority did you do these things? Where is it written in your law that you have this authority? Were your procedures followed properly? That's the next question. Even if it is written in the law, they're going to be like, okay, well, what's your process? What are the laws? What are your processes and procedures? Were they all followed correctly? And if they weren't, somebody's in trouble.
And that somebody, it's not the members.
No, it's not the members at all. It's called, you better give me his money back.
So let me ask you this last question. In the foreseeable future, can you see a problem with me getting into the General Assembly and enforcing our Constitution?
You want my honest answer?
Yes, sir.
I would say yes, simply because because of how you have to enter into the General Assembly through the delegates, right?
Right.
Now, here's the problem, though.
Here you go.
What they did to you this last year, there's no law for it. Meaning, whenever they said that you're not eligible because of, well, we don't want him there, and they told the members that you weren't eligible to be nominated or voted on, none of that's in the law. In any law, anywhere at all. That's just the made-up stuff that they stuck out there. And if I were the members, I would have elected you anyway.
But they don't know any better. Now, here's your problem. Well, I'm going to let him say it. Where's the problem if there's some information in the minutes that stipulate that I was in the General Assembly and I was kept from speaking on something that I wanted to bring to the floor, and that went down as old business that has not yet been brought forward? What's the problem for the General Assembly? What was that again?
Well, that's a massive issue.
And why is that?
So, because it's old business that hasn't been concluded. This is why it's so important to not never waive the reading of the previous minutes.
Why do you think they keep every year waiving the minutes, waiving the reading of the minutes?
So they can get by with junk. Look, the only one, even if I'm at the meeting, right? Let's say I go year after year after year after year, and I have my own minutes, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to waive the reading of the previous minutes because my minutes don't necessarily count. It's what's actually written in the minutes of the Secretary of the General Assembly that matters, right? Mm-hmm. What if he wrote something in there that's funky and I don't like the way it's worded, or I have an objection to it? You should never waive the reading of any previous minutes on any club that you sat on, because you don't know how the recording secretary recorded it.
The importance of the minutes is if you keep waiving the minutes, but the recording secretary writes in those minutes that every member of the General Assembly in 2024 has agreed to pay an entry fee of $1,000 each year following this year, or they will be held liable and dismissed from the General Assembly. This law was made and voted upon and passed by a majority vote of 500 out of 505 votes. Now, you know that you didn't agree to any such law, but it's written in the minutes. And then next year they say we're going to waive the reading of the minutes. And then the year after that, they say, everybody in here, you owe $1,000 or get out. And you sitting there like, I ain't $1,000. What is this new law? What is this $1,000? But it's now a rule. Because the minutes have been waived, but adopted.
Yeah. And what they do is if they do that if they continue to do that year after year after year after year, well, then they can say, well, that's where they get this, well, we've always done it this way. Because we've done it this way for the past 30 years because, we snuck it in on you and, you waived it and now it's been adopted and not disputed for 30 years. That's still a very winnable case, but it makes it much harder. Like now you've got to do a whole lot more research and go through the documents and all this stuff. It allows them to get away and set precedent, as you talked about earlier, with a whole bunch of nonsense that should not even exist. And not only should it not exist, they're doing things and getting away with things that right now actually don't exist at all.
Now, when we use the term adopted, what that means is you have accepted by default. You didn't vote on it. You didn't say all of those in favor of adopting the minutes as read. You didn't say that. All you did was say, we make a motion that the reading of the previous minutes be waived. And all of those in favor say aye. You say aye. Now they're waived. By default, those minutes will go down in history as being indirectly adopted, even though you didn't adopt it.
That's when they're going to flip the script too and say, well, no, we followed all procedures. The General Assembly adopted it.
Right? Because no one opposed what was written in those minutes. And that's why he said it's important to hear the minutes. If you don't know what's being documented by somebody saying this is what happened in that meeting, then you could be agreeing to anything. And that's what happens with the Constitution. Year in and year out, as long as we keep going forward, y'all come in and we sing a song and a dance. Hey, welcome to the General Assembly. Everybody clap your hands. Beautiful. Good to see you all. How was the trip? Did you enjoy the ride down here? Okay, good. It's glad to see you. We're going to take everybody's names right now, and we're going to have a brief intermission. We're going to come back in an hour and a half. The bishop is expected to be here at 12 o'clock. And make sure you're back by that time. Go eat. Do whatever you need to do. Now, the bishop comes in. Everybody, I'm calling Ad. He's my. And then he comes in, and everybody's, yay. We thank and pray, yay. Do we have any business? Well, at this time, we're going to have the reading of the minutes. Yes, somebody else come forward. We want to put a motion on the floor to waive the minutes. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All of the opposed? No one. Okay, what do we have next? We want to elect and nominate and elect the secretary for next year. Oh, well, I like the secretary who was there last year. We might as well keep him. What do y'all say? Yay, Bishop. Good. Okay, no problem. Let's move on. Is there any other business? Nope. That's it. Okay. Good talk. Let us all rise.
Yeah, and this whole thing too about for the sake of time.
Right.
No. No. The answer is no. Immediately no. This is what you're there for. This is what you should spend all your time doing while you're there. There is no for the sake of time. For the sake of time, we have an entire weekend.
Mm-hmm. And what is not concluded can be continued.
And if you really wanted to do something for the sake of time, you wouldn't even call the General Assembly out to sing a song to the bishop for his food. That's a waste of time.
That part. So much is being done in front of the people. It is absolutely obvious. And it's hilarious that they're getting away with this stuff. And believe me when I tell you, they know what they're doing. This is why I keep saying in the videos, they know what they're doing. Apostle Commodore knew what he was doing when he talked about all the people. It was unanimous and everybody voted. Nobody could leave and say that, I voted for the wrong one because no, this time there was only one name. He knew what he was doing. This was all planned.
That's all nonsense. How do you mean you voted for the wrong one? You only voted for one. Only having one choice is wrong.
It's not even an election. If you have one name and everybody agree upon the said one name, then by default, that person automatically fills the role that you're nominating that person for. There is no election. There's only one person.
But my definition of election means that we are going to make a choice. We'll break this down into its most simplest terms. An election means that there is a choice on the table, and we need to choose and make our voices known on what choice we're going to make. One option is not a choice. There is nothing to choose.
Uh-huh. So why go through another 45 minutes to an hour, making everybody get up, come down to the front, sign their name, and put it inside of a box that's got your name on it, your picture on it, and there's no one to choose from. It's just you. But you're making everybody put their name in the box just so that you can say he was elected. It's an obvious fraud. Everyone was conned. We're going to prove that coming up. And we're going to show you all the receipts. That said, that's why I talked about Apostle Commodore doing what he did. But that's why Apostle Ladisall, getting up there talking about he gave us a redeemer. He gave us a prophet. He gave us joy and salvation. Look upon him. Just nonsense. Apostle Tanner talking about you came and brought the rain with you. It was about, what was that? Not even a half an inch or a couple of inches of rain. It didn't even rain in Los Angeles. He brought the rain with him, but the rain came about 400 some miles away maybe.
Look, it's called magician's choice. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's called magician's choice.
People, what he just said, magician's choice. I can choose out of a bag of tricks in order to keep deceiving you with. It is all a front. They're all in on it. And we have got to wake up. So I asked him a question earlier, is it going to be a problem with me getting in the General Assembly? Now, as we get ready to close out, according to the laws and the precedents and the way that we've been operating in this organization, it looks like there's a problem with me getting in because they just might not cooperate. Well, here's your problem. Remember I said earlier in this video about the laws of the land? The Constitution...
I wasn't going to go here. I wasn't going to go here. If you want to go there, we can definitely go there. I wasn't going to go there because I wasn't going to let it out the bag.
Well, briefly, there's authority that says, no, y'all can't do that. And once people activate that authority, well, then it becomes very, very easy and simple to get into the General Assembly. And there's nobody that can keep you out. Is that correct?
Yes.
So for all of you members who's worried, who's in support of what we're doing, and you're thinking, well, they're not going to let them, they're not going to let them, they're not. No, no, no. See, that's the problem. You live in America, Jack.
Can I touch on this real quick?
Sure.
Because there's these people that want to say, well, it's an ecclesiastic court, you can't allow outside laws in. However, you appeal to the outside authority whenever you form the organization. That means that you're under the jurisdiction of said authority that you appeal to form the organization, and you must also abide by. That's why you're still filling out forms for the IRS, because you appealed to them for a tax-exempt status. It was granted to you. You have to follow their laws. So, yeah, this is not a... if you don't follow your own laws, your own procedures, or things are jacked up, or whatever the case may be, then, this is not... Those... They don't care about your ecclesiastical court, so to speak. They will come in with a vengeance and make sure that it's done correctly.
Because you live in America. That's why if somebody put their hands on you, if someone just touches you, matter of fact, they don't even have to touch you. If somebody act like they're going to touch you against your will, that's called assault. Just
well, even a threat. So you had it very correctly in a previous video where you said, you have assault, which is assault is just a threat. It's a verbal threat. The other element to an assault is the person has to have the means to carry it out. So if I'm threatening you kind of like online, but I live halfway around the world, well, that's not technically an assault. It's just a threat because I don't have the means to carry that out. However, if we're in the same room together, we definitely, you definitely have the means to carry that out, and it definitely is an assault. The battery is the physical touch. Assault is illegal in and of itself.
If I just do that, I don't even touch you. It's illegal. I can be arrested. Just that. And you feel breeze pass by your face. I haven't even touched you. Even if I act like I'm going to. It's assault. That's a crime. Now, here's the point. You mind if I touch on a little bit of your background without going into your background?
Bro, you can go as far in my background as you want to go. I don't care.
There's not a weapon in the world that I won't say the world, in this country and many, many parts of the world that this man doesn't know about. Now, in his job description, he had to actually give instruction to some of the highest military personnel in this country, if not the highest. Now, my point is this. There's not a whole lot about the law that he doesn't know. There's not a whole lot about the law in some facets that I don't know. And if you are involved in personal defense, self-defense, if you teach how to do anything with defense, hand-to-hand combat, group combat, escorting, bodyguarding, anything like that, if you're dealing with weapons, you must know the law. You can't even use self-defense to defend yourself without knowing the law. If you happen to take self-defense classes and you defend yourself in some situations, you can get locked up. You must, everybody who's, you must know the law. Self-defense, you have to meet force with force. If you punch me and I come at you and crush your windpipe, well, that's not meeting force with force. I just took a life because I decided to take your life just because I have trained knowledge in how to do that. And all you did was punch me. Well, the court's going to lock me up because punching me in the face is not the same as me crushing your windpipe. I'm going to get locked up.
There's definitely, I mean, even if you take a CCW class, right, a concealed weapons carry permit class, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things, like most of the entire class, they don't teach you how to shoot. They don't teach you what weapon you should carry. The whole point of the class is only teaching the law. It's only, where can you carry this? Where can you not carry this? What are the elements that you need to meet to be able to bring it to bear? That's what they're going over.
Now, I mention that because it's important that all of the members of the organization and even non-members around the world understand what we just said. Why? Because if you serve on a military group, a security group, an escort group, or even just a plain Jane and Joe, you can't put your hand on people. You can't threaten people. You can't even look like you're going to do any type of harm to people because you are putting yourself at risk for being arrested, detained, and locked up. Now, I've seen many cases where people have gotten themselves into situations, but nothing happened because what he said, people did not assert their rights. Let me put it like this. It doesn't matter if it's the bishop himself. You can't say whatever you feel like saying to people. You can't do anything you want to do to people. And for those who don't believe that, well, the former bishop put his hand on someone. That someone asserted his rights, took him to court, and the former bishop lost that case. But the members don't understand this because they didn't let the members of the organization know that somebody took the bishop to court and they won. Because the laws will prevail. You can't do whatever you feel like doing. And our members are of this impression that they can do whatever they want in the House of Prayer and get away with it. Absolutely not. So as we wrap up, just please understand this. There's no reason for you all to be scared, intimidated, or afraid of anyone, including the bishop, including the security groups, including these councilmen, including your chairmen, including your pastors, because first of all, you need to understand that everything in here is voluntary. You have no masters in this organization. Everything is free will. No one can make you or force you to do anything. You have laws that protect you. You have rights that you get to assert. And if you all don't start asserting your own rights, then you're going to continue to be taken advantage of. And the one thing that they've been doing is making you feel like you must do whatever they say. Well, there's a saying, the buck stops here. This is why I've said in a few videos ago that the jig is up. So what we're bringing to your attention is the fact that if you don't assert your own rights, don't worry about it. If you're too scared and too afraid, don't worry about it. If you think that they're going to do this, X, Y, Z, and there's nothing you can do, don't worry about it. Guess what? You got some individuals that when they signed up for the military, they made vows and oaths, and they said to protect this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. That means we signed up to protect the people in the country of which we are citizens of. Now, if you got people who join the military to do that, well, what about as a civilian in their civilian life? Joining an organization of which all of the people here are members that we get to take part of voluntarily. And when you have thugs or brutes just bullying people, well, if we understand the law well enough, then somebody gets to stand up and say, you know what, no more. We're not going to tolerate this. And if we walk away, then that's still allowing the members here to be subjected to all kinds of bullying and abuse of powers by people who are in positions of authority over you. So what I'm getting across to you is you have a group of people now standing up and saying that y'all don't have to worry about standing up. We're going to stand up for you. And all this nonsense is going to stop. Based on what I just said, I'm going to let Kill close us out with whatever it is that he want to say, either about what I just said or anything else he would like to say. Go ahead, Kill.
Oh, man, that was a lot. But yeah, even intimidating. Well, even if you feel intimidated, there is issues with that even. And that can even lead into other things. And just because someone does not necessarily get arrested on the spot does not mean that there still isn't legal precedent or case that can be brought. So it's going to get interesting. It is time for the people to start reading, understand who they are, saying you can't do this, you can't do that. Even if you're set down, well, there's certain things in the law that says you can be set down for.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also defined penalties of how long you can be set down for those things. So it's all there. Just be heartened that understanding this, it can all be changed. The General Assembly has the authority to change any and all of the rules of the organization. And no one can stop you in doing that but you.
And there's an acronym that some people pronounce MAFO. Other people pronounce MAFO. MAFO. That acronym stands for mess around and find out. When you mess up against people who understand their rights, well, then you're really hurting yourself.
I don't want to hurt, harm, or cause anyone any type of damage. However, if you want to call down the 7 plagues of Egypt on yourself, I'm not going to stop you.
And pretty much this is what our Lord and Savior said when he gave the warning. It's better that you take a millstone, he said, and hang it about your neck. Tie it. Tie a chain around it. And then tie the chain around your neck. And take that millstone and throw it to the depths of the sea. He said it's better to do that than to mess with, or harm, the least of mine. Point being is members of the organization and those around the world in whatever organization or institution that you're in, what we're saying is stop rolling over. Learn your laws, your local laws, the laws in the institutions that you're a part of. Learn the federal laws, learn the laws of your country, so that the individuals who's been taking advantage of you and who's been abusing their powers because you don't know that you have powers, you can put all of that to a stop. So what we're saying here in the House of Prayer is this entire organization is about to find out that the individuals have been cheating, robbing, stealing, lying, and manipulating the entire organization. And the organization is about to be flipped upside down. And everybody that's been doing these things, they're about to find out that you've gotten away with it long enough and the door is waiting for you. It would be better for you to come forward now than to wait for individuals to show you that they're serious about what it is that they're saying. So for all of you who think that we're crazy, well, keep thinking that. But I'm going to say this last thing, and this will be my last statement. If I were the members, I would stop working in these kitchens for G class. I would stop giving all this money in Daddy's Club, Addie's Club. I would stop giving all this money in pastor's offering. I would stop giving all this money in general. Same thing with tithes. I would stop even all this money for offering. I would stop giving a dime and just wait, because all this money that you're giving in convocation is a waste. This is over. You can now stand up and look your pastors in the eye and ask them questions. Ask them to show you and support what it is that they're saying with backup, with scripture or the laws that says that they can do what it is that they're doing, that they can tell you to do what it is that they're telling you to do. Don't give another dime. Now, if you do, that's on you, but it's money that you're wasting. Take your families out. Enjoy some picnics. Take them out to a restaurant. If you don't have money because you've been giving it all in the house of prayer, start paying your bills with it. Stop putting yourselves in financial ruin because you're taking care of all this stuff in the house of prayer that you're getting nothing for, while the bishop and all these other people are living this luxurious life because they're robbing you blind while telling you that he's going to bless you. It's all a lie. And there will be the convocation that's coming up with the announcements, all of these walking down the aisle, the red carpet, all that stuff. Listen, save your money. Stop giving. I'm telling you now to stand up for yourselves and stop all this raising of money. People preparing to send bands to Miami. I'm telling you, save your money. You don't have to listen if you don't want to. Waste your money. It will be a waste because nothing's going to come from it. And you'll find out in a little bit more time. So that's my spiel. Begin to stand up and assert your own rights. You can keep on being timid and afraid and all this stuff. Okay. But you'll find out just like everybody else. I'm done. I'm ready to close out. Kill, you got the floor.
I appreciate you, sir. Just study, be vigilant, stay prayed up, really seek the Lord. Get down on your knees. You won't really seek the Lord. He'll show you. He'll open up your eyes.
And he's waiting there with open arms. So
yes, sir.
You
He's
stop.
going to show you how his yoke is easy and his burden is light.
Just like
Stop giving all this money and all these different programs only for the Redeemer to redeem you and all the money you gave for a little plastic pen.
it's not even plastic yet. They haven't gotten that far yet. But that gold has turned quite a few necks black. I'm just saying. Where you see black color on people's necks or black and green color on people's collar or blouses, the necklaces or the pins, it's not real gold, it's gold colored. So for all this money, you're getting, I don't know, some spray painted nickel. Not even nickel. It's a mixture of metals. But they might pay maybe 70 cents for each one of those pins. But you paying $2,000 for them and walking around proud because you got 8 of them on your lapel. Okay, $16,000 later. And that's less than $10 worth of gold. Anyway, I digress. If that's all, we'll have Kill come back with us at another time at his leisure. Probably later on this is Saturday night, later on in the upcoming week. Right now, we're scheduled to have Josh with us on tomorrow. Kill just said something that Brother Perry said as he was closing out. Put our trust in the Lord, in our Heavenly Father, and He's waiting to bring us out of all of these things. Stop trusting in Addie. Jeremiah 17:5. Make sure you read that. That said, thank you everybody for your time. We appreciate you, and we'll be back to see you in the next video. Kill.
Praying for you all. See you later.
Have a good night.